Imagine being able to grow a full year's supply of food for a family of 6 in an area smaller than your living room. That's exactly what the Amish have been doing for generations, using simple yet highly effective techniques that most modern gardeners never learn. While the typical American household wastes nearly a third of their groceries, Amish communities manage to waste less than 3%, all while farming in what many would consider impossibly small spaces. Ever wonder how the Amish manage to get such high productivity from such small plots of land? The secret lies in how they design and organize their homesteads. While Amish farms aren't typically as large as commercial operations, every inch is used with purpose and precision. A key foundation of Amish garden layout is sun mapping. They study how sunlight moves across their property during each season, then place taller plants and structures along the northern edges of their gardens, while shorter crops go to the south. This prevents taller plants from casting shade over shorter ones and maximizes sunlight exposure throughout the day. Another clever strategy the Amish use is creating microclimates, warm, protected pockets that extend the growing season. By positioning things like stone walls or water barrels around the garden, they create areas that retain heat and shield tender plants from frost. Some even place dark stones near crops like peppers and eggplants to soak up heat during the day and release it slowly at night, keeping the surrounding air warm. They also blend animal housing into the garden system in a way that supports the ecosystem. For example, chicken coops are often built near compost piles, so the birds can scratch and help break down the materials. Rabbit hutches may be positioned over garden beds to provide natural fertilization, and barns or sheds for goats and cows are placed to act as windbreaks that protect delicate plants. Water conservation is another critical part of Amish homestead design. They use swales, shallow channels that follow the land's natural slope, to slow rainwater runoff and allow it to soak into the soil. Rain barrels installed at the corners of buildings collect runoff from roofs, providing a ready supply of water for irrigation during dry spells. In every part of their layout, the Amish focus on efficiency, harmony with nature, and using what's available rather than relying on outside inputs. Their design philosophy turns even small homesteads into powerfully productive systems. The Amish soil management system. In any truly productive garden, the most important factor lies beneath the surface: soil. The Amish have spent generations refining soil improvement techniques that can turn even poor ground into rich, fertile growing beds. They don't rely on expensive commercial products. Instead, they use simple, natural materials that are often available right on their homesteads. At the core of their system is the famous Amish 18-day compost method. While traditional composting can take several months, this faster method creates nutrient-rich compost in under 3 weeks. It involves layering green materials like fresh grass clippings with brown ones such as dried leaves or straw. The key is keeping the compost moist, like a wrung-out sponge, and turning it every 3 days to encourage rapid decomposition. The result is a living soil teeming with beneficial microbes. One often overlooked ingredient in Amish soil care is coffee grounds. Long before coffee shops became common, Amish gardeners were collecting used grounds and adding them to their gardens. Crops like tomatoes, strawberries, and blueberries thrive on the small nitrogen boost and mild acidity they provide. Coffee grounds also attract earthworms and deter certain pests, solving multiple problems at once with a single material. These 20 time-tested Amish strategies could completely change how you approach food self-sufficiency, even if you only have a small patio or backyard to work with. Even the smallest growing spaces benefit from their clever use of cover crops. Instead of leaving beds bare between plantings, Amish gardeners sow quick-growing crops like clover or buckwheat. These green manures prevent erosion, block weeds, and add organic matter back to the soil. In tight spaces, they may simply cut the cover crop at the soil level, leaving the roots to break down naturally while the top growth becomes mulch. The Amish remind us that soil health isn't something you can buy in a bag. It's something you build over time. By nurturing the soil instead of just feeding the plants, They create gardens that become more productive and self-sustaining with each passing season. Foundation crops for small spaces. When space is limited but food security is essential, selecting the right crops is crucial. The Amish have mastered this process, carefully choosing what they call foundation crops, plants that not only provide nourishment but also improve the soil and prepare it for future growth. Their strategy is all about making the most out of every square foot. Beans are among the top foundational crops in Amish gardens. They're incredibly efficient because they serve two purposes: feeding people and feeding the soil. A single bush bean plant can yield up to half a pound of beans, and at the same time, its roots work with beneficial bacteria to pull nitrogen from the air and deposit it into the soil. This natural fertilizer continues to benefit the next crop planted in that spot. As one Amish farmer put it, chemical fertilizer is like coffee. It gives a quick boost, but leads to a crash. Nature's way is slower, but it lasts. Fast-growing soil enhancers are also key to their small space success. Radishes mature in just 25-30 days, giving a quick harvest while also loosening compact soil with their deep roots. Their rapid growth chokes out weeds too, solving several problems at once. Another favorite is buckwheat, which flowers in just 6 weeks, draws in pollinators, and helps release phosphorus into the soil. Once tilled in, it decomposes quickly and enriches the soil in time for the next planting. The Amish don't just plant crops randomly. They follow a carefully designed seasonal rotation that maximizes both harvest and soil quality. For example, peas are planted early in spring, harvested by summer, and followed by heat-loving plants like beans or squash. As summer ends, they squeeze in fast-growing greens like arugula or spinach to take advantage of the final warm weeks. These crops hold the soil in place during winter and provide food when other gardens lie dormant. By focusing on crops that give back to the land while feeding their families, the Amish create gardens that get better year after year, even in the smallest spaces. Intensive square-foot gardening. Producing large amounts of food in a small area isn't a modern innovation. The Amish have been practicing dense, efficient gardening for generations. Their version of intensive gardening transforms tiny patches of land into powerhouse plots by using smart layout and strategic planting. Long before square-foot gardening became a buzzword, the Amish had already perfected the concept. How the Amish plan their gardens. Their garden beds are typically 4 feet wide, just narrow enough to reach across without stepping on the soil. These beds are divided mentally and sometimes physically into 1-foot squares. Each square is carefully planted based on the mature size of the crop. This method can increase yield by 300-400 compared to traditional row gardening. Where conventional rows might fit 5 heads of lettuce, the square-foot system could grow 20 in the same space. Staggering planting times is another trick the Amish use to keep food coming continuously. Instead of sowing an entire crop at once, they plant in small batches every week or two. This succession planting means no overwhelming harvests followed by a dry spell. A single square might grow spinach in April, switch to beans in June, and finish with carrots in August. 3 full crops from one tiny plot. To support this strategy, plant selection is crucial. The Amish use compact, space-saving varieties of vegetables, many of which they've saved seeds for across generations. Bush beans and compact cucumbers are preferred over sprawling types. Even corn, often considered a space hog, is grown intensively with smaller stature varieties that still produce well. This high-efficiency approach allows the Amish to transform even a modest backyard into a steady source of food. It's not about how much space you have, it's about how wisely you use it. Vertical growing revolution. When you're short on space, growing up instead of out becomes a game changer. The Amish have long understood the value of vertical gardening, using trellises, supports, and companion planting techniques to maximize every inch of growing area. Their approach not only saves space, but also makes gardening easier and more productive. A hallmark of Amish vertical gardening is building trellises from minimal materials. Simple wooden stakes and some twine are often all they need to support heavy crops. A common design is the A-frame trellis, which provides two vertical growing surfaces using very little wood. Growing plants off the ground improves airflow around leaves. The Amish have also adapted the traditional Three Sisters method for vertical growing. Corn acts as a natural trellis for climbing beans, while squash spreads below, shading the soil and keeping weeds at bay. Even in a 3-3-foot plot, this trio can produce up to 20 pounds of food, far more than you'd expect from such a small space planted with just one crop. Climbing plants, when properly supported, produce far more than their bush-type counterparts. For example, a single pole bean plant trained to climb 8 to 10 feet can yield up to 4 pounds of beans. Cucumber yields double when they're trained to grow up instead of sprawl across the ground. Amish gardeners check their climbing crops often, gently guiding the vines along supports and pinching off excess foliage to focus energy on fruit production. These simple habits, building low-cost structures, choosing climbing varieties, and regularly tending vertical plants allow the Amish to grow more food in less space with fewer problems. It's a low-tech revolution that anyone can adopt, no matter the size of their garden. Growing enough food to support a family for an entire year may sound overwhelming, especially if space is limited. But the Amish have mastered this through generations of careful planning and hands-on experience. Their method goes far beyond simply planting seeds and hoping for good results. It's a strategic process that starts long before anything goes into the ground. Vertical herb spiral construction. Herbs are essential for flavor, healing, and attracting pollinators. But growing a variety of them can be tricky when space is limited and their needs differ. That's why the Amish often use a brilliant structure called an herb spiral. It's a compact vertical garden that creates multiple growing conditions in one small footprint, making it perfect for tight spaces. The spiral is built like a coiled ramp, usually about 3 feet tall and 5 feet wide, rising gradually from the base to the top. This design creates a winding path more than 25 feet long, all within the area of a small round table. By going vertical, the herb spiral turns limited garden space into a layered environment where each herb gets exactly the conditions it prefers. What makes this structure so smart is how it naturally creates different microclimates. The top of the spiral stays dry and well-drained, ideal for Mediterranean herbs like thyme, oregano, and rosemary. The middle levels stay moderately moist, perfect for parsley, chives, and cilantro. Near the bottom, the spiral holds more water, making it ideal for water-loving herbs like mint or watercress. The Amish build these spirals using materials they have on hand. Stones from the field, salvaged bricks, or old logs. They layer the inside with coarse material for drainage at the core and fill the rest with rich, well-draining soil specially suited for herbs. A finished spiral might hold 20 or more herb varieties in the space where only 5 or 6 would fit in a flat bed. With a little creativity and the right structure, even a small garden can become a flourishing herb haven, one that's beautiful, practical, and space-efficient. Dwarf fruit production techniques. You don't need a full orchard or acres of land to enjoy fresh fruit year after year. The Amish have refined techniques for growing compact fruit trees that thrive in small spaces while still producing generous harvests. With careful pruning and smart variety selection, they've turned fruit growing into something anyone can do, even in a backyard the size of a bedroom. One of their favorite methods is espalier, a centuries-old practice that trains fruit trees to grow flat against a wall or fence. This turns the tree into a two-dimensional shape, saving space and improving sun exposure. An espaliered apple tree might extend just 8 inches from a wall while spreading 8 feet wide, perfect for growing fruit along a garden border or even next to a shed. The Amish often use ultra-dwarf tree varieties that only grow 4 to 6 feet tall, compared to the 20-foot giants you see in standard orchards. These mini trees still produce full-sized fruit, often yielding 50 to 75 pounds per tree. Choosing disease-resistant and cold-hardy varieties ensures that the trees produce reliably, even in challenging climates. The first step Amish families take is calculating how much food they'll need, based on basic caloric needs. It's not a complicated formula, just an understanding that the average adult needs around 2,000 calories a day. From there, they figure out which crops provide the highest nutritional value per square foot. For instance, a family of 4 might grow 250 pounds of potatoes, 100 pounds of beans, and 75 pounds of corn to meet their carbohydrate needs for the year. Pruning is a major part of the Amish system. They remove any inward-growing branches and keep the center of the tree open so sunlight reaches all parts. This not only boosts the harvest, but also improves airflow and reduces the risk of disease. Summer pruning, done when the tree is actively growing, helps keep the tree compact and productive. With these smart practices, an Amish family can grow apples, peaches, pears, and cherries in a space most people would never imagine using for fruit. It's a beautiful example of how thoughtful planning can turn even the smallest space into a fruitful harvest. Natural pest management in small spaces. Keeping pests under control without using chemicals is a challenge for any gardener, especially in small spaces where every plant matters. But the Amish have developed natural, effective ways to manage pests that maintain balance in the garden without harming the environment. One of their most powerful tools is companion planting, placing specific plants near each other to confuse or repel pests. Marigolds planted next to tomatoes can reduce root knot nematodes by up to 70% thanks to natural compounds they release. Basil not only enhances tomato flavor but also keeps flies and mosquitoes at bay. Trap crops like nasturtiums attract aphids away from vegetables, acting as decoys. These combinations overwhelm pests with mixed scents, making it hard for them to find their preferred plants. Another Amish favorite is homemade garlic spray, a cheap and effective solution. The recipe is simple: crushed garlic, a little mineral oil, and water, left to steep overnight and then strained. When sprayed weekly, it repels many soft-bodied insects and disrupts their feeding. Studies show garlic spray can reduce aphid populations by 75%, nearly matching commercial products. Herb borders are also common in Amish gardens. Strong-smelling herbs like rosemary, sage, and lavender are planted around the edges of vegetable beds. Their powerful aromas confuse pests looking for crops to attack. These border herbs also double as culinary and medicinal staples, making them both functional and efficient. A small Amish garden, just 20 by 20 feet, might have a full 2-foot wide perimeter of pest-deterring plants. These living fences create a protective buffer that helps ensure the crops inside stay healthy and untouched. It's a low-cost, high-impact method of keeping pests in check without ever opening a bottle of synthetic pesticide. Advanced pruning techniques. Pruning isn't just about shaping plants, it's about guiding their energy. The Amish treat pruning as both an art and a science, using it to dramatically boost harvests while keeping plants healthy and compact. They understand how to remove the parts that drain energy and redirect it toward producing fruit and vegetables. One of the most impressive aspects of the Amish approach is a simple 10-minute planning exercise that can dramatically increase a garden's productivity. With just paper and pencil, many Amish gardeners plan their entire food supply. Most people plant based on preference, but by writing down meals for a single week and multiplying by 52, they get a much clearer picture of what and how much to grow. Take tomatoes, for example. Amish gardeners watch for suckers, the little shoots that grow between the main stem and a branch. Left unchecked, these suckers can waste up to 30% of a tomato plant's energy without producing anything useful. By removing them early, when they're smaller than a pencil eraser, gardeners help the plant focus on making fruit instead of unnecessary leaves. They also use the single-stem pruning method, where all suckers are removed so the plant grows one strong central stem. That stem is supported with a stake or string, and the result is impressive. A single tomato plant in just 1 square foot of space can produce up to 20 pounds of fruit in a season. The secret is consistent weekly checks during the growing season to catch suckers early. This technique isn't limited to tomatoes. The Amish apply similar principles to cucumbers, blackberries, and other fruiting plants. Cucumber vines trained to grow vertically along a string can yield nearly twice as much as vines that sprawl across the ground. Blackberry canes that are bent horizontally grow more side branches, which means more places for fruit to develop. In every case, the goal is the same: guide the plant's growth to where it matters most. With just a few minutes of attention each week, Amish gardeners turn small spaces into highly productive systems, thanks to the power of precise pruning. The 3-season stretch method. Most gardeners only grow food during one season, but the Amish stretch their growing time across 3: spring, summer, and fall, turning every square foot of soil into a year-round food source. Even in colder climates, their techniques make it possible to harvest nearly all year long. The heart of this method is succession planting. Instead of planting once and being done, the Amish rotate crops through the same garden bed multiple times in a single year. A spring bed might begin with spinach and lettuce, which are harvested by early summer. That same bed then hosts beans during the hot months, and in fall, it's replanted with cool season crops like carrots or kale. The soil stays active and productive from thaw to frost. They also take inspiration from the moon, literally. Lunar planting is a tradition among Amish farmers based on the idea that the moon's gravitational pull affects plant growth. Root crops are planted during the waning moon, when energy pulls downward, while leafy crops are sown during the waxing moon to encourage upward growth. And while it may sound old-fashioned, agricultural studies have shown faster germination and healthier plants when lunar rhythms are followed. To maximize time, Amish gardeners also start the next crop before the last one is even harvested. They sow seeds in small containers 1 to 2 weeks in advance, so when the current crop is pulled, the next is ready to transplant immediately. This overlap technique saves valuable growing days. With just a single 488-foot bed, managed with the 3-season system, an Amish gardener can grow over 200 pounds of food in a year, 3 times what the same space would yield using a 1-season approach. It's all about timing, planning, and making the most of every week in the growing calendar. They're also extremely intentional about avoiding food waste. Instead of growing more than they can preserve, Amish families match their harvest to what they can realistically store. If they know they can only process 10 bushels of tomatoes before they spoil, they don't grow 15. This keeps everything in balance and ensures nearly nothing is wasted. Microgreen production system. Even in the smallest spaces and coldest months, the Amish manage to grow fresh, nutrient-rich greens year-round using microgreens. These tiny plants, just a few inches tall, are harvested within days of sprouting and pack an incredible nutritional punch in minimal space. Microgreens are young seedlings of common vegetables like broccoli, radish, kale, and mustard. Despite their small size, they can contain up to 40 times more nutrients than their fully grown counterparts. A small 2x 2-foot setup can supply a steady stream of fresh greens for an entire family, making this one of the most space-efficient growing methods the Amish use. What makes this system so effective is its speed and simplicity. Most microgreens are ready to harvest within 7 to 14 days. By planting small trays every 5 to 7 days, Amish gardeners ensure they always have a fresh crop coming up. They often stack shallow growing trays vertically to conserve space, with each layer producing a different type of green. The growing medium is typically homemade and sustainable, often a mix of compost and materials like coconut coir or peat moss to retain moisture. After harvest, the spent soil and leftover root mats aren't thrown out, they're composted and returned to the garden, continuing the cycle. This low-cost, low-effort system is especially valuable in winter when outdoor gardening slows down. While others rely on grocery stores for produce, the Amish harvest trays of fresh microgreens indoors with just basic materials and natural light, or a small supplemental lamp. Their approach proves that, with a little planning and consistency, even a single shelf in your home can become a powerful source of nutrition. No garden plot required. High-efficiency potato growing. Potatoes are a vital staple for many Amish families. They're rich in calories, store well, and are easy to cook. But instead of dedicating large plots to grow them, The Amish use smart, vertical growing techniques that produce huge yields in tiny spaces. The cornerstone of this method is the potato tower. It starts with just a small patch of soil where seed potatoes are planted. As the plants grow upward, gardeners add more soil around the stems, encouraging new potatoes to grow along the buried stems. Layer by layer, the tower rises, and so does the harvest. A well-built tower just 3 feet wide can produce up to 100 pounds of potatoes in a single season. Their planting methods are also built around long-term soil health. Amish families follow seasonal rotations that often span over 3 years. They know which crops take nutrients from the soil and which ones return them. For example, beans and peas add nitrogen, while corn and tomatoes use it up. This kind of planning keeps the soil naturally fertile, year after year. The Amish also pay close attention to soil pH, which affects how well different potato varieties perform. They may build towers with pH layers more acidic in the lower levels and more neutral near the top, tailored to each type of potato planted. This allows for better yields even within the same structure. Water management is just as important. Too much moisture can cause rot, so Amish towers often include a vertical drainage channel in the center, made from bundled sticks or a perforated pipe. This channel not only prevents waterlogging, but also allows air to circulate to the roots, promoting healthy growth throughout the height of the tower. By layering, balancing pH, and ensuring proper drainage, the Amish grow potatoes not just in beds, but upward, like a vertical root crop skyscraper. It's a clever way to turn a small corner of the yard into a powerful food source that lasts all winter. 4-season mini greenhouse system. While most gardens shut down in winter, the Amish keep growing fresh food even in freezing temperatures, thanks to their simple but powerful mini greenhouse design. These compact structures, often just 4 by 8 feet, let them extend their growing season into all 4 seasons, even in harsh northern climates. The greenhouses are built with locally available materials. Frames are usually made from rot-resistant woods like cedar or locust. A basic cover of 6-mil greenhouse plastic works for most of the year, but during winter, the Amish add a second interior layer to create an insulating air pocket that keeps the inside much warmer. This setup can keep nighttime temperatures 15 degrees higher than a single-layer design. Inside, they grow cold, hardy crops like spinach, kale, lettuce, parsley, and chives. These plants thrive even when outdoor temperatures drop into the teens. Some Amish gardeners in Pennsylvania report harvesting 3 to 5 pounds of fresh greens each week throughout January and February, months when most gardens are frozen solid. The real magic is that this warmth comes without electricity or fossil fuels. Instead, the Amish use passive heating methods. Black water containers absorb heat during the day and release it at night, keeping the greenhouse from freezing. The north walls may be built from brick, stone, or even stacked water jugs painted black, all of which act as thermal batteries. Manual shutters help trap the heat overnight. This low-tech greenhouse system proves that you don't need fancy equipment to grow food in winter. With smart design and a little manual effort, the Amish grow fresh, healthy produce all year long, even when there's snow outside. Tiny homestead layout design.